Hey everyone, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. It's another Sunday evening, and it's time to connect. So, the intro song for today is Always Pray for You. Also, a fantastic song. I've been listening, I spent today listening to putting the song on repeat, and I was just listening to it. Such a blessing, such an amazing song. That's the mood that I just want to be some sort of support to everyone that's going through one or the other. I want to be light. I want to be a voice. I want to be a bridge to everybody who's doing one thing or the other. It's Sunday time to connect. All right. So, how has your week been? I'm waiting for the folks on YouTube to join in. I'm waiting on the folks on LinkedIn to join in. And then, of course, I can see the folks on Facebook already streaming in. So it's amazing. It's amazing here. And we're going to do this for the next, say, 1 hour or so. It's amazing how you've been. I trust that you have a great weekend. We're wrapping up the weekend. And I mean, it's the beginning of a powerful week. All right. So I'm declaring you and over you that your week is going to be the most powerful and the most amazing. All right. Quick shout out to Ambassador Iteka David hosted me over the weekend at the speakers conference. We had an amazing time talking about the role of public speaking in nation building. It was simply fantastic. And to all the new friends that I met out there in the city of Yo, hey, to you. Keep walking the path of your champions. If you're here, let me know. Send me a message, drop a comment on whatever platform that you're on, and I'll definitely respond to you. It's been an amazing trail, this series that we've been having over the past few weeks, transforming the narrative. And for me, transforming the narrative it just has to do with the way that we see things, changing not just what is said about a thing, but changing the course of everything, so that when you now talk about a thing, you are actually saying what it is that you desire to see. And so the first week we talked about the power of media and information and nation building and national orientation. Last week I had my good friend Victor Taffa and of course Ambassador Iteka David in the studio with me, and we talked about public speaking and nation building. Well, guess what? I'm totally excited, as I always am. Today is part 3 of the Transforming the Narrative series, and we are taking a shift to mental health. As advertised during the course of the week, we're having that conversation on mental health, and I have a fantastic somebody I consider, somebody I always love having conversations with. He'll be joining me today, as you already know. Still Dapper, we call him. I'm sure his mom calls him SHEUN. Somewhere in between, there's a David, and of course, the great ONAMUSI. All right, so I'm going to be bringing him into the studio pretty soon. But I just want to do a check. If you're on Facebook, please do send me a message. I want to be able to read from you. I want to know that all portals are active. If you're on YouTube, if you're on LinkedIn, just type a message, send to get this going on. Okay, so I'm going to be bringing in Steel Dapper, my brother, in a few seconds. I'm trying to get to his really loaded background story, and in the studio soon. All right, it's amazing. It's amazing. All of things that we also do. Shout out to all women. Also, it's been a week and a month indeed of celebrating women, and people are wondering, is this episode? It's not. It's hold the horses, man. So we're gonna be celebrating men next week Sunday, and I have amazing artists that are going to be in the studio. I mean, it's absolutely So I understand that my visuals are a bit further, but I guess the network thing on the network on my side. So we'll proceed and it will get better as we go along. All right. We're gonna jump in, and I'm gonna comments as they're coming in, and we're taking them one after the other. So saying regards to the women, don't worry, the Connect honors and celebrates you. So we're going to be having a good time with you. We're going to be having a time today as we'll be talking about breaking the bias. All right, we'll be talking about breaking the bias next week, Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. I'm almost tempted to tell you the people that will be on set, but maybe I should just keep that for myself, as we normally do around Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's going to be super amazing. All right then. Tired from a trip, but I'm absolutely excited to bring in my guest. So, guys, as we usually will do, it's time to bring in the guest for today. I'm bringing in my brother and my good friend, and then we'll get to it as we bring him in the studio. Hey, guy, it's great to have you here. So I've sent an invite out to Still Dapper. I have Still Dapper in the studio.
How you doing, my brother?
Hey!
Good to see you.
I'm good. Also, it's great to see you too. How have you been?
I've been very well, thank God. Thank God.
Excellent. All right. So guys, man, who is this bloke we have in the studio? What's going on here? We're telling you a bit about him in a few seconds from now. So just hold on. I have to read a bit of his profile. All right. So he starts in 9 at the age of 24. So some people are already calculating. They're already crunching the calculators right now. How old is he? How old is he? So SHEUN David ONAMUSI opened a million naira franchise. TM Lewin store in Abuja whilst undergoing his national youth service. All right. It was awarded an honorary doctorate at the age of 33. SHEUN is best described as a result-driven maestro who is passionate about creatively using entities as a tool for sustainable human progress. And you need to understand that. All right. He's currently the CEO of Still Dapper UK. At least one that we know him as Still Dapper. Makers of the Dapper luxury leather goods brand, designed in the UK and manufactured in the EU. Is also chair of Redefine, a human capacity development investment focused on empowering young Africans through capacity building projects, while also creating funds. All right, with key focus stakeholders, the seeker, and all right, is also a publisher of 2 self-help books, as well as a senior business analyst at the pharmaceutical. She is an avid lover of outdoor activities, nature, music, and enjoys reading. Did I say something about also working out? Is a workout fanatic. All right, now I hope my network is great. You have SHEUN as Still Dapper. SHEUN, is great to have. I hope that my network does permit that we're for treating the thing I have to deal with on the live. All right, but how you doing again? How you doing? I mean, now that I file, how are you doing?
Very well. I'm very well. It's good to be back in the room. This is my second time with you in one of your sessions, and it's always a pleasure. So I've been counting down since a couple of weeks ago that you told me about it. I was like, I can't wait to just get on stage with this great speaker, a good brother of mine. I just want to talk with him, have a conversation, make it interactive. So I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome, and thank you. Such kind words, and that's just like James put it all together. Guys, because one of the things for those of you that don't know him, he's blessed with the gift of the gab, and not just that he's blessed with the gift of the gab, he has a message and an ideology that he greatly desires that the world understands, and this is one of the things that connects me to this guy. He's phenomenal and he's fantastic, and it's great to have you in the studio. Sean, let's jump right into it. All right, a couple of things. The way the world has been going is not mental health month, the mental health, but what I've also come to learn that we necessarily do not have to wait for dead dates or set apart dates on our calendar to be able to pay attention that affect us every single day. Now, from where to career to relationship, mental health is at the base of it all. The way they perform, single thing that you do is a reflection of your mental health. And you also have been in many capacities a very strong advocate. I've heard you speak severally on multiple platforms on mental health and with your personal experiences as well. So to get this conversation on the way, just want to tell us your story, tell us your health, and of course, we'll share your story and then we'll take it up from Jim.
Okay, thanks, brother. So my mental health journey probably started all the way back in 2008. As at that time, I didn't know much about mental health. I thought it was one of those things that you go through in terms of my experience. So in 2008, I had a suicidal episode where I was feeling suicidal and I was at the urge of taking my own life. I was just a couple of minutes away from walking onto the train tracks. And that was my first experience on mental health. And of course, I didn't, because I'm here with you right now. And that was a really divine sort of encounter for me, why I didn't end up taking my own life at the time. But again, I didn't know much about it. I kind of brushed it. I kept on, I kind of looked at the divine intervention part of things and only talked about the divine intervention part of things. I never really looked at mental health as a broader conversation that needs to be had until last year when I had a mental breakdown. And this time it was quite catastrophic. I lost both sides of my reasoning, my cognitive abilities were gone, my emotional, my logical reasoning was all gone out the window. And I spent about a month in the hospital, and I had great care from the hospital here in the UK. And after a month, I came out, but I still struggled with some elements of my mental health. And that kept on for at least another 6 months. But one thing I learned from that whole experience, and I'll probably touch on it in a bit more detail when we start having this conversation in a bit more detail. But one thing I learned from it is that nobody is immune from mental health. Mental health shouldn't be a conversation that should be stigmatized as it is. There are a lot of stigma around it. There are a lot of things around it. When I started to share my experience of dealing with anxiety, dealing with imposter syndrome, most people that I shared it with said to me, "Oh, come on now, you're a very confident guy. You're a go-getter. How's that even possible? You've published 2 books. You've done this. You've done that. How's that really possible?" And I have only one answer. It is possible. It can happen to absolutely anyone at any point in time, no matter how great, strong you are, no matter how spiritually inclined you think you are. It can happen to anyone. It just takes a few wrong steps here and there where you actually find a decline. But you don't also have to get to a decline before you start to look at your mental health. Mental health is a broad conversation. It has to do with extreme situations, like schizophrenia or paranoia or psychosis, but also mental health has to do with anxiety. It has to do with anxiety disorders. It has to do with social interaction anxiety that people have as well. So mental health is very, very broad. And we just need to talk about it, demystify it, because the more we demystify it, the better it is for us to really start to deal with this issue. We go to the doctors to check our blood pressure. We go to the doctors for all sorts of things, but we never talk about mental health, and I think we need to. So my experience was back in 2008 up until 2021.
You know, and it's amazing every time I hear your story, Sheun, it's if I'm hearing it for the first time, because and that's a common mistake, and the reason why I say that, the reason why it's such a menace, because it's easy to look at you and say, what in heaven's name is he talking about? How could this person right now, this person that delivered this amazing speech, this fantastic book, this person that just runs this vibrant business, this, how could he deal with that? What chance does anybody have to deal with it? And the first thing that occurs to me, like they said, this is something that could happen to, and it's not so much as happening to anyone that scares, rather that it could happen to anyone and we will not even know until it is perhaps too late. I think that's what scares me, because everybody has a degree of anxiety. There are things that I find myself a bit, even me, I find myself a bit worried about some things, and I'm wondering when is it okay to worry? When is it okay to, what exactly defines good anxiety and then bad anxiety? Sure, these are questions you probably have asked yourself because look, if you look at your story as you just laid out it, it didn't start in a day. It didn't start in a day. I've had panic attacks, and I'm sure as I'm saying this, a lot of people are like, "Are you serious?" There was a season in my life that I had panic attacks, and it literally crippled me. The good thing that it was for a short, and I can't even tell you how I overcame it, but I know that I helped myself to listening to things that they did. I opened up my mind to other possibilities that perhaps I didn't give my mind to, and one way or the other, without it being so clinical, I was able to cultivate, and thankfully I've not had attacks since. So now when I'm in conversation with you, I'm thinking to myself, at what point did it get too much? When did it start? Did you think it was okay? Did you think it at a point? Share to me. I'm amazing poster boy for this, because anybody and everybody, including myself, looks at you and you don't look anything like the story you just told. So let's go back to the nonsense. Let's go back to the beginning. When did it all start?
So I think I can't pinpoint when it all started as such, but what I can say is in my sessions with my therapist, and this is a plug to say this, it is okay to have Jesus and a therapist. It is okay to have spirituality and a therapist. It's okay to be a man and have a therapist. It's okay for you to be a woman and have a therapist.
Okay,
it's absolutely fine. Absolutely. There's nothing in the Bible that says that you can't have a therapist. So let's be very, very clear. You can be a Muslim and have a therapist. You can be religious, whatever it is, and still have a therapist. But that's my shameful plug. But I say that to say, in my sessions with my therapist, I started to realize where these things started from. It was during my session with the therapist that I realized that as the way I've been brought up, or the way I've been brought up, which most people that are listening right now and will listen to this recording later, most people have been brought up in the same way. It is ignore, ignore, ignore. We don't talk about mental health. We don't talk about traumas. We talk about pushing it and just going ahead. You are strong. You can do this and you can do that. And what we don't know is that it all speaks, your subconscious keeps the count. And what happens is when the cup is over full and there is a burst, and all it takes is one trigger or one major trigger, and that burst happens. And that's when you really can be at a point where it is either a point of no return, or a point where you really find yourself clinically diagnosed, like a lot of people have had to find themselves after a number of years. So what happens is you have to deal with the trauma. So personally, mine was wrapped up with a lot of trauma, both from childhood and growing up as well. Some of the traumatic experiences I had in business, some of the traumatic experiences I had with dealing with people on a one-to-one basis, these things were all somehow just storing up in my subconscious mind. And in my subconscious mind, I didn't know much about it because I didn't. What happens is, you go about your day. You just keep living life and you don't know that you're storing, because your brain is a memory, is a memory stick, is not a memory stick, but it's like a database. It stores a lot of information. Absolutely everything that you've ever come across in life, your brain has stored in some shape or form. The ones that it's discarded is kept at the very least somewhere around 10 to 30% of what you've experienced is stored it up. So there's absolutely nothing that is totally discarded. In some shape or form, there's a recycle bin in your mind as well that it picks up at any point. So except it is physically deleted, and when I say physically, you can't delete certain things, or except it's physically deleted where you are consciously deleting it, then it will be stored up in your subconscious. So for me personally, it just goes all the way back to traumatic experience, and that's really the core of it. But then there's also thinking patterns, which were also a critical element to how I saw life, and how I saw life translated to how I interacted with life. How I interacted with life translated to how my experiences were shaped. How my experiences were shaped translated to my overall mental health. So you can see that there's a correlation with everything as well. So it's trauma, thinking patterns, as very critical element of it.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I agree with you, right? Because everything is really interconnected, and the more we realize how connected, the more attention to just about everything about us. Another thing crossed my mind, while you were speaking. First of all, I love the fact that you say that, and I agree with you that you can have Jesus and have a mentalist. And I think I've heard you say that before. I think it was in Clubhouse, but you saying it right now, it's all over with me. You can have Jesus and a therapist, because, and that's my conversation, any that goes untreated doesn't just go away. It grows into something that we understand less of, and then something that becomes significantly huger than that. And what happens sometimes is because there's a cultural stigma, and we have to that. I mean, like that. It's okay to be a man and have a therapist. So, men don't even think, and largely not more men, but men can say that for a fact. Don't even think that they even recognize, first of all, that there's a mental issue or health has been compromised. Attention has to be given to it. Everybody believes mechanism, get a drink every day, chill out every hour with the guys every day, and then that fixes whatever strain you're having, that fixes whatever pressure that you're having, and then you wake up the next morning, and then it's like a cycle. You get on with life. But like you rightly said, these things just pile up. They just keep piling up. They just keep piling up. If it's too, when it gets too full, the bands will break, and then it becomes like. And so these things could have been dealt with at stages. But now the question is,
Yeah.
what can be done? Two things. What can be done? Number one, to further drive this, because look, we're losing people in the area of work, in the area of career. You're having too many people underperform because the mental health issue that needs to be addressed. Too many people are in the wrong same relationships. Too many people are in the wrong career line of career, or in the wrong.
I lost you. I've lost you, Aniekan. I lost you. I've lost you, Aniekan. Aniekan, can you hear me? Aniekan, can you hear me? Okay, maybe if I'm waiting for Aniekan to unfreeze, can I just get an indication from Ufon and Linda or can you just type a message? Let me know that you can hear me at least while Aniekan sorts out his technology. Just let me know if you can hear me. I want to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself because I can pick it up from where we left off. So please just put an indication in the chat and let me know if you can hear me. Okay, awesome. All right, so it's difficult because I didn't hear the question that Aniekan had before he froze up. But there's something I wanted to say around the Jesus and therapist conversation that I mentioned earlier on. Aniekan was he cited an example. He said, some people just think, as a man, I'll go out and chill with the boys, I'll drink, and they use that as a distraction and coping mechanism. I would also like to say that a number of people use Jesus as a coping mechanism. A lot of people use the church as a coping mechanism. They use the church as a drug. They use God as a drug. The first time I heard that statement was from a mentor of mine, and he said, stop using God as a drug. And that was very revolutionary. And I think about it now. When I say people use Jesus as a coping mechanism, what they don't understand is, rather than really unearth the depth of the issue that they have, what they do is they just sing Kumbaya and they sing, I'm moving on with my Jesus. And what happens is, if you understand, even from the little I know about salvation, I've come to understand that your spirit gets saved, but your soul is a work in progress. The moment you give your life to Christ, it's your spirit that gets saved. Your soul becomes a work in progress, and your body has to do a catch up with your spirit man. So in a sense, it's mental health is somewhere in your soul. It's not necessarily all the things that you go through, all the challenges that you have, all the anxiety disorders, all those things are stored up in your soul realm, because your soul realm in itself is tripart in nature. And one of the three elements of your soul is your mind. So everything that gets stored up in your mind is inadvertently in your soul at some point. So you can see the dichotomy. You can see that it's possible for you to have Jesus and be saved to the extreme, if there's any such words, right? But it's possible for you to be saved and spiritually mature, but your soul is suffering, because what has happened is that the things that are going on in your mind, the challenges that you're facing, are stored up in your mind. So people use Jesus as a coping mechanism as well. And all coping mechanisms need to be addressed properly. All coping mechanisms need to be looked at properly to know if they are the right coping mechanisms that you need to have in place. Drinking, we know that drinking does more damage to your brain on the eventual long run than anything else. So using alcohol as a coping mechanism is not necessarily the best thing for you to do. It's no good for you. And if we talk about the Jesus factor, again, your spirit man is saved. It's great. You're working your spirit man. It's all good, but it doesn't stop you from suicidal thoughts. Over the last couple of years, I've seen cases of pastors who committed suicide. So it's not about how spiritually mature you are. Your spirit man is saved. You will make it to heaven. That's fine. But what then happens is your mind in itself is not. It needs that work on a regular basis. So just to address that point about coping mechanism. But if we go back to my personal story and some of the challenges that I had, or let me not make it all doom and gloom. Let me talk about the success, the bright side of going through my mental health challenge. Let me talk about the bright side of it. There was a bright side, and I'm starting to realize, the good book, the Word of God says, in all things give thanks. And now, a year down the line, I give thanks more than anything else. I thank God every day that, I thank God that I went through what I went through, because if I had not gone through what I had gone through, I would not know the things that I know right now. So I'm absolutely glad that I went through those things. But how did I get out of it? What were the things I did? What was the strategy I employed? If you know me, I'm also a public speaker. I've been doing public speaking for over a decade. I've done quite a lot when it comes to talking about models and strategies. So you know that we motivational speakers like to talk about methods and acronyms. So there's an acronym I came up with that has helped me to really look at mental health. So this is what I'm going to say. The acronym is called REST, WREST, WREST. If you are dealing with anything at the moment, if you are going through a tough time mentally and you're battling your mental health and you're struggling with it, whether it's anxiety you're dealing with, or you're dealing with an extreme situation of paranoia, or you're dealing with social anxiety disorders, or you're dealing with memory loss, all these things that are part of mental health. It's not the extreme. It's not a case where somebody becomes, in quote, a lunatic. I don't like using the word lunatic as well, because I think it's derogatory when it comes to talking about mental health, because there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. And if you see a person who is insane, somebody on the road with their clothes off, or they're just pacing around and walking around, if you go to that person and say you're a madman, the person will look at you and say, no, you're a madman, because to him he is sane, to you he is insane. So there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. But I say all of that to say that whatever case, whatever spectrum you find yourself, whether it's something as simple as anxiety, whether it's something like imposter syndrome or social anxiety disorder, this acronym will really help. And I found it to help me in restoring my cognitive abilities. I did this all in 1 year, in less than a year, with this acronym, the REST acronym. The W in that acronym stands for writing. Write everything. I said earlier on that your brain is a machine. It's keeping all this information, and I don't know if you've ever heard this statement. The thinnest pen is better than the sharpest brain. Something about the faintest pen is better than the sharpest brain. So write down all the things that go on in your mind, all your experiences. Keep a diary on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Write your experience. Oh, I met with this person today. This is what I learned from that experience. This is what they said. This is what changed me. This is what I can't forget from this. This is a lesson I learned from it. This is what I'd like to discard from it. Write your perspective about your experiences on a daily basis in a journal. When you pick up a journal, I know it's sometimes old school, but there's a reason why it works. Writing really works. It takes a load of information away from your brain and it puts it on a paper. So writing becomes very, very important. The R in the REST stands for reading. When I went through my own episode, what I started doing was I started reading materials. I was reading books about the mind. I was reading books about guilt. I was reading books about social interaction. I was reading books about all sorts of things. I was reading medical journals about the mind. I was trying to learn. I was reading the Bible. I was reading and reading and reading and reading, because it's very important. Reading helps you to encounter a different world. It takes over your mind. You know, when you read, it's very difficult for you to be thinking about something else when you are focused reading, when you are really focused at reading whatever you're reading. So what happens is it distracts your mind. That's why you feel good every time you've read your Bible and you stand up. Reading in itself is so powerful. It's a strong mechanism that has been used, and we're losing the tradition these days with all these digital apps and all the distractions that we have on social media. But we need to switch away from it and start to read. And when we're even using our digital platforms, our digital apps, make sure that you're subscribed to a medical journal, you're subscribed to a reading club or a book club, you're subscribed to something that just encourages you to read, not just get entertained. The problem is we have too much entertainment now that a lot of people don't even have time to read. So schedule reading. I hear someone say, I don't have time to read because I'm in traffic all day, or I have to journey all the way to work, or I have kids, I have this. Schedule time for it. Make time for it. It's something as simple as 30 minutes of reading a day can make a difference. Just 30 minutes. Schedule somewhere 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night. If you can do an hour, good. 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night. Just break it down in that sense, because what happens is you are giving your brain the fuel that it needs. And let me also say, read good things, right? Read those positive books. Read books that encourage you to think outside the box. Read books that challenge your thinking, your current mental state, because your anxiety could be linked to your current ideology. So you want to read books that are outside that as well, to challenge it, so that you have this exposure in your mind on a regular basis to things that counter your cognitive biases as well. So reading becomes very important. The E in the rest, and Aniekan had said this. He said, I'm addicted, or maybe he didn't use the word addicted, but he said I'm an exercise buff. The E in the rest stands for exercise. Exercise is so important. And one thing with exercise is you don't have to go to the gym to exercise. You can just go for longer walks on a daily basis. When I was trying to recover, guess what I did? I walked. I averaged 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. I was just walking and walking and walking. And the more I was walking, the better, the stronger I was getting. It kind of gave me this image of, how, the more you walk in a right path, the more you walk before God, you kind of get stronger, you get bolder, in that kind of sense, right? So walking becomes walking is a very good exercise tool. So you don't have to go to the gym. If you can go to the gym, then great. If you go to the gym, I would advise you to do cardio quite a lot. Running on the treadmill is very, very, very good. Reduce the weights, because what the weight does is it builds your muscle mass, but it doesn't release as much tension as if you do cardio. So go a lot on the treadmill, try and move around a lot. The key thing here is moving. Exercise is about moving. Just make sure that you do it on a regular basis. If you can now combine walking, like your exercise, with reading, or you can combine it with, another tip I'm going to share with you in a moment, then fantastic. But reading, exercise is very important. So first is writing, reading, exercise. The S, the first S, stands for sleep. I cannot overemphasize this. When you sleep, you need to make sure that you prioritize sleep, because when you sleep, what happens is it is the best detoxifier. It is your moment of sleep. What happens is that it takes away the negative emotions or the negative experiences, or that's what sleep is supposed to do. It's supposed to take away the negative or separate between the negative and the positive experiences. The sleep in itself is your moment of recalibration, and that helps your brain. So sleeping becomes very critical. Some people say that you need 6-7 hours of sleep a day. All I know is that you need to sleep. So I started sleeping more, because I used to believe in that scripture wrongly, that says that the lazy man doesn't take out his spoil and work on his spoil, and he would rather sleep, a little slumber, and your poverty will come upon you. So that word that is supposed to encourage me to be a motivated individual became a blockage for me as well, because I interpreted it to mean don't sleep. There's no sleep for the wicked, and that sort of thing. So sleeping it's so important. It is your moment of recalibration. You want to prioritize that. And to have better sleep, I started listening to Psalms. So on YouTube, there, you just type it in there. It says Psalms for sleep. Just type it into YouTube. You see it come up. I played that every night. I played things like rain and thunder music to help me sleep better. I put on the fan and I slept close to the fan so that sound can help me sleep better. I did everything. I made sure that my room temperature was absolutely good, right? So I reduced the heat, because when there's too much heat, you have bad sleep. So I made sure that my room was cool. I had a shower at the end of the night so that my body temperature can come down as well. So all of these things help you and aid you in sleep. So Google more. I'm not a sleep therapist or a sleep expert, but Google it and look for, your techniques. The other S stands for spirituality. As you've probably guessed, I am a spiritual man. I like and I love the spirituality. I believe that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience, but we need to understand that when I don't know if anyone has seen this message by Genevieve a couple of days ago, where she says mental health is more spiritual than physical. Now, some people are arguing with her. Daddy Freeze is talking. Reno and Mokre is talking. Different people are talking about their perspective around it. What I will say is that mental health is both spiritual and physical. It's not either or. So what you want to do is use spirituality as one of your tools. And what you, in my own view, is prayer. It's nothing more than that. Prayer. No matter what it is you're going through, just pray about it. The anxiety, pray about it. When you can't pray, just declare your trust in God. Just say something to the Almighty and say, I trust you to help me with this anxiety. I trust you to help me to deal with this. Because what happens is that, like the good book says, it says, sometimes we don't know how to pray as we ought to, but the Holy Spirit makes intercession on our behalf, with a groaning which cannot be heard in words. So all you have to do sometimes is just declare that and speak in tongues. I did that a lot. I was speaking in tongues on a regular basis to help me. So it becomes a very powerful tool as well in your armory. And then the last word in that rest is T, tracking your time. The T stands for tracking your use of time. I would encourage you, keep a diary. When you've prayed, track it, track what you're doing, track how much sleep you're getting. I have one of these digital apps, watches, right? It tracks my sleep. It tells me how many hours I've slept a day. It tells me how much of that sleep was deep sleep or light sleep. So track it, use your devices, your phone as well, your iPhone. Your iPhone is so powerful. You can use that to track your sleep time as well. So even if you don't have one of this, look at your Fitbit information that you have. A lot of people have Fitbit, but they don't read the data. They don't try and understand what it's saying. So read it as well to track your time. And the more you're doing that, you start to see that you become stronger, because mental health is really about control. What you want to do is, mental health is really about control, to have control of your mind, to have control of what you are doing per time and per season. So what you want to know is, how am I using my time? How am I using my time reading? How am I using my time resting? How am I using my time writing? How am I using my time sleeping? How am I using my time in spiritual things? Time is of the essence, but you have to track your time, and that's the good side of it. So I just want to say that to really hone in. I don't think Aniekan will be able to join again, but I hope you're finding this session useful and some of the things I've said. So please just type in there. Let me know that I'm making sense. I want to make sure that I'm not just talking to myself. And Aniekan has sent me a message saying I'm doing super good. Thank you, brother. It's impromptu, but I had to, bring up my teaching skills. So please let me know if it's making sense in any shape or form. I think when you use these tools, you find yourself in a better place. Of course, seeing a therapist has helped. So the T can also stand for a therapist. See a therapist. Speak to someone. Speak to a professional. Talk therapy can be one thing that you need. Sometimes we just need people that we can talk to. Find a friend, find a family member that you can talk to that wouldn't judge you for what is going on in your mind, for the paranoia that you might be experiencing or the anxiety. Talk to people who wouldn't say, but you now, you're a sharp guy like this. How can you be saying that you're dealing with anxiety? People like that, just shift away from them, right? Go away from them and look for confidence. Look for confidence that you can speak to and share. Because talk therapy is also a really powerful tool for you. And if you are in a place where you've been clinically diagnosed, let me encourage you, use your medication. The medication is supposed to slow you down. It's supposed to correct chemical imbalance in your brain. And it's okay to accept. You know how if you fall, you have cancer, or you do something, or you have a wound, you go and get drugs for it, and you take those drugs, right? And they work on parts of your body to help you rebuild organs or things like that. The same thing happens with the mind. They're great medications. I'm not going to give you medical advice because I'm not a doctor, but speak to a therapist, a psychologist, and get help with those medications as well. But don't shy away from your medications. Your medications are very, very important. So use them as well. But don't rely on just the medication. Use the REST acronym, speak to a therapist, and you'll find yourself in a much better place. So that's pretty much what I want to share. If there are any questions, please throw it in the chat. We've only got about 8 minutes left. So I would love to know if there are any questions. Please let me know if you've got absolutely any questions. Otherwise, you can reach out to me on my social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm always willing to share. I'm always willing to talk to people, because for me, I'm not going to brand myself as a mental health specialist. No, I have too many good things going on in my life for me to do that. And I'm not saying it's bad, but one thing I would never, ever shy away from is talking about it. Because if I can talk about it, I found that if I can talk about it, I can help break that stigma. So you and I need to start breaking the stigma. Yours doesn't have to be as extreme as mine. If you're dealing with anxiety, please talk about it and tell them I'm dealing with anxiety, and label it mental health challenge as it is, if it is chronic. And if it is chronic, seek counsel. Speak to a therapist. So if you have not been clinically diagnosed, right, you should still speak about it. When somebody challenged me about my conversations around mental health, I said, just because you've not been clinically diagnosed does not mean that you don't have mental health problems. There are a lot of people. I'm not going to mention name, but there's a woman on social media parading as a pastor. Some of the things that she says, spirits that she hears, things like that. I am tempted to believe that she's dealing with extreme case of psychosis. But a lot of us, because she has not off her clothes, right? We don't think that she's losing it, right? So we really need to talk about mental health, whatever stage you find yourself. If you're dealing with anxiety, talk about it. It makes you stronger. The more I've talked about my mental health challenges, the stronger I've gotten, the more confident I've felt, the more in control. Remember what I said, it's all about feeling control. Most of the time you feel like you've lost control. So The more I talked about it, the stronger I felt, the bolder I became, the less stigma I felt around it. And the bolder I am. And one thing I've learned is this, right? The fortune favors the brave, right? So be brave, be bold enough, talk about it, talk about your dealing with anxiety, and also talk about how you are overcoming it as well, so that people can realize that it's not all doom and gloom when it comes to mental health. The extreme cases, but most of us deal with minor ones that we can all always be in a better place. So let me do a shameful plug. I'm coming up with a mental health app that is going to be coming out at some point before the end of the year. So I would really love to, get some of your thoughts around it. If you can help us with some surveys, I'll really appreciate it. So I'll speak to Aniekan if he can reach out to the group as well, because I really want us to talk about mental health. Mental health is chicken change. To talk about it, it's nothing. It's not big. There are bigger things about life. There are bigger things that you are born to achieve, right? So don't let your mental health become your definition. That's another thing. My mentor told me one thing. He said, do not let your mental health challenge define your destiny. Let me say that again. Do not let your mental health challenge define your destiny. Your destiny is greater than whatever you are going through in your mind. So you have to realize that you are above it. And like the good book says, I love it. He that is from above is above all in prominence and in excellence, right? So you are above it. Talk about it and move past it. Bucket it. Use the REST acronym. Use those tools and find yourself in a better place. We've only got about 3 more minutes left, and there are no questions at the moment. But thank you so much, Aniekan, for this opportunity. It's a shame that I've not had you on the platform, because I love our conversations. You're such a great compare. You're a great speaker. The way you challenge me when we're having conversations is amazing. So I really would have loved to, to have this discussion with you. But it's a challenge. It's a shame that we have technological challenges. But I hope you've learned something. Do not let your mental health challenge define your destiny. You're much greater than whatever is going through your mind. You can overcome it, and you must realize that. You must stand in that truth, that you can overcome whatever mental health challenge that you're going through. Thank you very much, Vernie, for saying you've learned a lot today. I really appreciate that comment. Thank you so much. Aniekan, my brother, I love you. I appreciate you for this platform. You mean a lot to me. I appreciate you. I celebrate you, my brother. I hope we can do this again next time without the technological challenges. And Mfon, thank you very much for putting in these informations and the nuggets from today. I look forward to getting some of those pictures so that we can share it as well. Thank you very much. I think there was somebody else that joined earlier on that I wanted to appreciate. Onyeme Lukwe, I also appreciate you. Linda, God bless you. Thank you very much for joining. Whatever you're up to this evening, I hope that you enjoy yourself and you have yourself a great week ahead. God bless you all.